Welcome to this tutorial on Final Cut Pro X file management, and we're going to get started in Final Cut Pro. Most of your file management is done there, so you don't really have to do it so much at the Finder level, but we will be using a connected external drive to store all of our media and create a library there. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Once Final Cut Pro opens, it has to have a library. So it currently has an untitled library with the first time that you log in. So what I would ask you to do is create a library and then delete this library. This library is pointing to your movies folder on your machine, and we want to make sure that we're saving to a C drive. So we're going to say File, New, Library, and you're going to save this on the external drive. And think of the library as a big subfolder, a big main folder where you put your subfolders per project inside of. So I want you to title it with your first and last name, all caps, and it'll go on the main root of your C drive. So this will be per C drive. If you were to move to a different machine, then you would have to make a new library on that machine with your first and last name. This again is going to be the main kind of root folder where all of your project folders will go inside of. So I'm going to save that. So now we see a library here, and if I go onto the C drive, we'll see a library here. And if I was to double click this, it would open Final Cut Pro. In order to see it, you have to control click it and go say show package contents. So this is kind of like the inside of the folder. There is currently an event titled this, and we're actually going to change the event and delete this library. So let's get back in Final Cut Pro. I'm going to highlight this and say File, Close Library. So now we only have one library open in Final Cut Pro. It is your library, and then inside of your library you can have events. So think of events like the subfolder that we would make on the C drive in step 1 of file management in the past. Each new project that you create should be a new event. If you wanted to go a little bit deeper than that, like let's say you're doing a documentary, maybe you create a library called your first and last name and documentary, and then inside of your events, maybe every time you do your transferring of your footage, you would create a new event per the date that you shot the footage and with the person. It would be kind of a smart way to manage everything, to have everything in folders so that you would have subfolders within your main library here. So think of the library as like an overall directory, and then each event can be per project, or if you have a really big project, it could be events within the library. Okay, so what do you do with events? We're going to say File, we can say a new event. It's going to put it in your library, but it's giving me this like 1 next to the date. By default, every new event starts with a date, so you don't have to date them anymore. I'm actually going to cancel this and just rename this event. I'm going to leave the date, and I'm going to call this File Management. And now if I look back in my Finder, this is now updated. So events can store media, and they will also house your project. So inside of your event will be media and a project file. Again, this is not done at the Finder. It's all kind of done within Final Cut Pro. And we are going to, let's start with making a project. It'll put it in my event. I'm going to call this 2014. We'll use their system. 2014 09 23 File Management. And now I have a timeline and a project file up at the top here. Project files. You no longer have to save your project. You don't have to save as. Final Cut Pro pretty much guarantees that it will save every single edit. If your program is to crash, it will save and bring you back exactly where you left off. So there is no losing any of the media if you crash. You don't have to save as daily. What I would do is just caution you that if you do crash, you're losing your undo queue. So like you wouldn't be able to come back and undo any of the editing work that you had done. So it's not too bad. It's an easier way to manage it. It is a little bit of nerve-wracking because you're not you yourself aren't physically saving each time and know exactly where the project is. Just know that within your library, inside of the event, you have made a project file, and that project file will always autosave. Okay, so let's bring in some footage. If I say File, Import, or Command-I, it'll bring up this window, and I'm going to pop in a card in the back of the machine. Sometimes cards will do some smart stuff. Here I don't want to launch Dropbox, so I'm going to close this. iPhoto may pop up. You should close iPhoto or quit iPhoto. And then inside of Final Cut Pro in this import window, we now see that we have like a little camera icon, and it's recognizing the file structure from this Canon camera. If it was an HMC70, you would also see it here. So what we're going to do is select the file that you want. You could even set in and out points. So if I wanted to hit I, I'm just hover scrubbing here. I'm not clicking anything, but I hit the I key for in, and here I'm going to hit an out point, O. So you can select a range that you would like to import and import selected, or you can select the whole thing. So I will double click or click. Oh, how do I clear this? I guess you would be able to drag these out. So you'd be able to set the in and out points and then import the whole section of what you wanted there. So I'm going to then import, and then this window pops up. Okay, so this window is asking you, where do you want to put this file? So add to the existing event. That would only put the link to the file. So you'd see it in this project window in the background here, or I'm sorry, in the event, you would see the clip. But it does not mean that it's been copied to the drive. So if you were to remove your card, it would go offline. So Final Cut Pro does a couple of smart things down here, but let's move down. So create a new event. We already did all of our event setup, so you don't have to do it here. And it's asking what library would you like to put it in. Media storage. Here I would say yes. Copy the files into this library. It'll go into the event. And that way when you remove your card, there will be a copy of the file on the C drive in your library in your event. So we want to keep that checked off. Transcoding. So I think by default all these are unchecked. For transcoding, I'm going to hover for a second, and it's going to tell me create a high quality copy of the media for optimized editing encoded as Apple ProRes 422. So Apple ProRes 422, for those of you who have done this in the past, is Final Cut Pro's preferred file format, and I'd say check this off only if you are doing massive color correction or you intend to color correct at all, and if it's a larger project, like let's say the documentary. Optimized media will create a larger file, and it's going to take up hard drive space, but it's a very good thing if you're doing a more critical project. For like a Man on the Street segment for the Renegade Morning Show, or something that's like a quick turnaround, you can not check that off and edit in the native format of the clip that's been copied directly from the card to the drive. So for the T4i, it's an MPEG-4. For the HMC70, it's an AVC HD file, which is another kind of MPEG-4 file. So it's a compressed file, but it's faster to get to your editing, and it saves space on the drive. Proxy media is something that we are not going to use pretty much ever. It's a smaller file that is used to optimize system performance, and then when you export, you have to relink to optimized files. So we're not going to use those. Analyze and fix color stuff. You're not going to need to do that. That you can do in Final Cut Pro once you identify things that need to be fixed. Find people is a smart function. It's actually kind of cool. It'll analyze for faces. Like here, you'll see, you'll be able to tag faces, and like let's say, I tag this Pistone, and I'm doing a documentary, and there's like lots of different people in the documentary. In my bin up at the top, in the event area, I'd be able to search for Pistone, and then I would be able to see all the clips that were labeled Pistone. So it's kind of a tagging system, I guess similar to what you would see on Facebook. I'm not going to use it for this. And then in the audio section, this is actually really cool. Analyzing and fixing problems. You could use that, but it's not necessary. I'd actually rather you fix them yourself. But these two things, we no longer have to unlink files and kind of separate files that aren't needed. Separating mono and grouping stereo audio. So if you only have one channel in, mono, it'll separate that and get rid of the extra track, and removing the silent channel. Let's say you have a mic plugged into the left side and nothing on the right, it'll automatically do that for you. So this is a much faster way than having to do that when you get into your editing. So I'm going to now import, and we're going to see it in our window up here. You're going to see that it is processing, and I'm going to click here and show the background task. So we're currently importing the media, and I think I selected transcode. So it's going to go through the import process first, and then once it's been fully imported, it's going to go to the transcoding process. So I caution you, if you're transcoding lots of clips shot on the same card, to make sure you pay attention to this area here, and then check before you pull the card, because I've already had a couple students who would pull their card, and during the transcoding process, it would be looking for that ProRes file, and it didn't finish the transcoding, so you get media offline. If that's the case, you'd have to make sure you don't format that card, put the card back in, and you'd have to say File, Relink Files on the next time that you loaded Final Cut. It'll give you error messages and say that you have media offline. So that's kind of the gist of file management within Final Cut. Most of it's done all in Final Cut, but to see what it looks like, you have to go on your drive and control-click, show package contents, and then you'll see that we have our current version. That's how the file is being saved. We have the original media. That's the MPEG-4 file, and then we have our render files. Oh wait, is it still transcoding? No, it's done transcoding. We should see another folder in here that I'm not seeing. Maybe I didn't select transcode on the import. If we wanted to, we can not do it right away, and we can do it after it's been imported. So I could say transcode media. So I just right-clicked or control-clicked, and we're going to create optimize and say OK, and then you'll see that this is happening in the background. So now it's transcoding, and here we would see I'm still not seeing it here. Show package contents, and we have render original. Where is that proxy media? There should be an optimized media folder here. Here it is, transcoded media, and then here it is, high quality media, and then you can see the difference between the file size. So here is our ProRes file. I'm sorry, here is our MPEG-4 file, and here's our ProRes file, so it's more than double. So you got to make sure you have hard drive space. And then that's going to do it for this tutorial. You would be able to take your files and drag them to the timeline and begin editing. We'll go over editing later.